And a lot of people, when I was in Canada, were basically, saying to me, why are you going to Poland? Because most people's idea of Poland is horse and cart, dusty roads,
True that,
yeah.
True. So walk me through your first days in Poland. How did it feel?
Oh,
What were you
man.
thinking, your first
I remember turning up to Modlin Airport, the guys from work picking me up. I'd never met them before. I knew nobody here apart from my boss, and my boss is like a celebrity here, so he's jet setting everywhere. He's not here all the time, so I've got to make friends, and for me, that's not a problem. I think I can blend in pretty easy. And they picked me up. I had like 3 suitcases with me. They took me to Prague. That was my first spot. And I remember being in Prague like, what the hell is this place? Because normally when you go to places like that in London where I'm grown up, they're dodgy areas. Dodgy meaning like they're not safe. And I thought that for the first 5 minutes in Prague. Then I got used to it and everything was fine.
So Prague is the other side of the city.
Exactly, the other side of the river.
Not Prague, the city.
Yeah. Prague, the other side of the river. My other boss at the time had a nice penthouse, so I had this beautiful apartment, and I was very settled straight away. Everything was very different to me. Like, Canada is a very different country to Poland, as well as UK, but with Poland, it was so much more raw.
Well,
the people were much more raw. It felt like less European to me than I'd ever been.
interesting.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate this aspect of this rawness of the Polish people?
It took me a little while to try to understand people's ways here. For people going from Vancouver, especially Canada, people are there as known as the most friendliest nation. They're so apologetic if anything happens. They want to be the first to say sorry. But they're nice people. And when I came here, I couldn't grasp Polish culture straight away. People looked a little bit sort of sour-faced, a little bit miserable. I couldn't understand if it was because of me or is their own problems. So it took me, I think, a good year to figure out how people are here. And they're a lot more reserved. I wouldn't say it makes them bad people. It's not the fact, but they're just so different. Mm-hmm. So it took me a little while to get used to people and for people to then open up to you, because you're so different from them.
So I will share a quick story because when I arrived there the first time,
yeah,
I knew I'm going to be staying here because I just felt too good.
Yeah.
And I like to say that home is not a place, but it's a feeling.
Yeah.
And I had that feeling, like walking around the city.
Yeah.
And I knew I'm going to be here for a while. Did you have a similar experience?
I had this feeling of like it being on an adventure because the buildings to me, the post-Soviet, the communism, I could still see this. And I've never lived in a place like that before. I'd been to Cuba just before I got here, and Cuba blew my mind. I was like, wow, man, this is a country still under communism. So then when I got to Poland, I see some similarities in the buildings, some in the people, a little bit reserved, but once they get to know you, they'll do anything for you. But yeah, I felt like, especially being a photographer, the city had this kind of sadness to it, but in a way it was captive to me, like I wanted to photograph it. And that's why I think, for me, Warsaw suits black and white anytime I'm taking pictures.
Let's talk about mental health. Because recently when I was talking to you and I told you I couldn't believe this friend of mine did this thing to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about it. And I left wondering, why is that? Why does people nowadays just feel dishonest and not man enough, if I may?
People don't know how to say no anymore. We live in a culture now where no is not a good word to say anymore. And I've learned over the last probably couple of years from myself, I don't know about you, but saying no is very important because you can't say yes to everything. You're going to be a people pleaser. You need to think about yourself sometimes. And I think these people, some people don't want to hurt your feelings, so they'll beat around the bush with things. Mm-hmm. But also I feel like, again, I think that since COVID happened, I think that people are more than ever on social media. It's much more, we live in two lives now, like the social media world and our real world. And a lot of people are not being honest with themselves through that. So when you're speaking to people for a phone, as opposed to face-to-face, we'll meet for lunch tomorrow. This is more, I think, more like you're going to stick to it. Whereas people not engaging with each other and just speaking on a phone, it's easy just to send that message and say, you know what, I'm sick today. When they're not really sick. But I think that's what it's become acceptable. We've become acceptable now not to have to socialize because we're socializing, which we're not really. So I feel like people have been more dishonest now because they don't need to be honest, because it's acceptable to be dishonest.
So what can we do about it? Because for me, I seem to not accept this situation. I just refuse, and I sometimes, try to lecture people.
Yeah.
Whenever they do something bad, I'm like, this man. At the same time, I am feeling like, it's not worth it. I'm wasting my time and breath.
Yeah. I feel, in my opinion, that I have enough friends around me now that if I have time for them and they make time for me, that's good enough. If they don't make time for me and they can't make time for me, then I'm not getting angry about it. I just think to myself, it will happen. I started to realize the people that are around me now are the people that need to be around me instead of chasing after people. I'm a person that can live in solitude. I can be by myself. Like I told you, I travel by myself a lot. But I feel that the people that pick up the phone and call you just to see how you are, instead of wanting something, are the people that I want around me. So like I said, with my father, I have that bond. We call each other mostly every day. Wow. If we don't, then we're sending a message to each other. It can be a stupid meme. It can be anything, But my dad says, when I called him on his birthday, you're only one of 3 people that called me today. That's a 61-year-old guy. So you get to that age, and I feel that I have this theory that when you're young, you have so much more people around you. When you're at school, you're high school, you got loads of friends. Then you leave high school, you get to the age of 20, you may have 10 friends. You get to 30, you've got 5 friends. You get to 40, you've got a few. And then, as you get older, it's hard to make friends. And I think that's the way it is. I think we have a lot more people around us when we're younger, because even in our 20s, I remember one of your last podcast said that his 20s was very toxic. And I totally agree with that. I feel that in your 20s, you're just trying to find out who you are. You're getting to that. You've left your teenage years have died, and now you're in your 20s, and I feel that you're getting to the point now where you're trying to become an adult. You're not quite an adult. You haven't quite got your shit together, but you're thinking that you're an adult. And then once you get past 30, then you realize, wow, man, what I was doing when I was 20 was stupid. And all these people, but most of them, if you're drinking in your 20s, you've got a lot of drinking buddies too. That's the other thing. You know what I mean? You got as soon as you stop drinking, you'll lose about 6 people around you.
That's like 50% of.
Yeah. So I feel like the people that are around me these days, the ones that call me and don't want just something from me and want to just, hey, let's hang out. I have people like that. They're random sometimes, don't see them for a year or 2 years, but when we catch up, it's like normal. I'm actually traveling with one of my friends next week to Africa, and this guy travels everywhere with me. If I tell him, listen, bro, we're going to Africa, he's like, booking my ticket now. Yeah, we try to do it 2-3 times a year. I have another friend that we do it. There's normally 3 of us, and we always have that bond that we try to see things together, experience something together.
Well, there you have it, guys. If you stayed till the end, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you would like to learn more or discover more, you can click right here on this video to enjoy more authentic and honest stories. Thank you so much for your support, and I look forward to seeing you soon.